Hello everyone, and welcome to another Topcon Solutions Bluebeam Tips and Tricks video. I am David Campbell, and for today's tips and tricks video, I wanted to talk about takeoff tool creation. So let's go ahead and get into review here. So, of course, the first tip that I want to give out is don't try to recreate the wheel. If you're just getting into this, there are several tool sets that are available. Starting off here just on Bluebeam's website under Review Extensions. So if you do a search for Bluebeam Review Extensions, you'll find tool sets, and there are a lot of different tool sets here that are free for your download. So free download, and they just have a lot of different symbols, whether they're HVAC, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. They have, like I said, a few different types of tool sets, some oil and gas, P&ID. Anyways, so they have a lot of different symbols, and again, these are full tool sets. You click on them, they'll bring up a download, so it's going to be in a zip folder here. And when you download it, it will go ahead and import itself. After, of course, you bring it in, you would need to import it or go into the folder and double click on it to bring it in. And it'll appear in the profile that you have active inside of Review. If you want to specify which profile that you bring it in, you would, of course, switch to that profile, Review, Profile here, and then go ahead and under Tool Chest, Manage Tool Sets, and then import that tool set in. Okay. All right. Now, another kind of portion I wanted to talk about to that not creating the recreating the wheel there is that under the quantity takeoff profile, so this is one of the default profiles that you'll get with Review, you'll find a lot of different types of takeoff tools, such as length measurement here, but this is the framing, steel, grid lines. They have a poly length for piping, ducting, and conduit. And really just what I wanted to also use this for is that with these tools, you can kind of see how they're broken down. These are still called poly length measurements, but they're representing maybe piping, ducting, or conduit. And these tools are fine to use. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk here for a second about how to recreate some of these tools and maybe put a little bit more information into them, whether that's needed or not. But another thing I really did want to kind of talk about is that when you bring in those tool sets from the review extension from Bluebeam's website, feel free to bring in more than you need. And if anything, under Manage Tool Sets, create your own new tool set, and then take some of the other tools from those other tool sets, just drag them and drop them into that tool set. And from that point forward, you would be able to kind of go ahead and determine what data you need there, so what tool sets you would need to be active, or which ones you can actually go ahead and completely purge out from your profile. So if you're done with them, go ahead and get them out of there. Okay, so those are a couple good tricks for starting out. Now, moving past that, another good tip and trick to kind of use here. You guys see I've already kind of started with this, but I'm going to go ahead back up to Edit, and under Snapshot here, let me close this tool chest, Edit, and then Snapshot. Using the Snapshot tool, if you have like a symbol legend, or let's say you print a CAD detail sheet with some symbols on it, you can go ahead and utilize the Snapshot tool, and I'm going to hit Control V to paste this. But you can use that to recreate those tools as a markup within Review. Now, this is a really nice kind of a tool, especially for some types of takeoffs if you're doing any counts. Again, with that symbol such as an outlet or a panel or anything like that, we can go ahead and recreate that symbol and use it as our counts, and we can start putting, of course, more data into that to help us track that information. So first off, if I paste this snapshot tool, a lot of times I want to go ahead and change the colors of it so I can have it reflect a little bit different. I like red. They stand out a little bit better. But after I've changed the colors of my snapshot, that's when I can go ahead and add that. So I right-click on it and add it to my tool chest. Now, from here, you've seen I've kind of recreated this, but once it's in the tool chest, we right-click on it, and here's where you can go ahead and have it create a count. So we can utilize that symbol for a count tool. Now, if you have any more information that you want to put into that specific markup or count tool, you can go into the properties of it. So this one here, we know it's a sign, but let's look on our plan. See if we can find, there's one. Okay. So this is an R6-1. Let's make this a sign. Okay. And as our label here, so our label, I like using that to, again, put in a little bit more information, identifying information about what this element is. Okay, so I can go ahead and place it, and we know that we've counted that. All right. Now, another tip is if you're doing those manual counts, I like the search tool here. And if you use the visual search, we can go ahead and search for maybe specific symbols or any images within the PDF content. Images, but markings kind of. I was going to say the R6-1, the symbol of number 2 here, that tag, the sign itself. Let me find a mechanical one here. I'm going to go ahead and do a search for one of these diameter symbols here. There's one. Let's grab that one. And what we'll do is we'll use get rectangle. All right. And then we can use the search. Now you can use this as in just the current page, so just this page here we're on, or the entire document, all open documents if you have multiple PDFs to check at one time. You can kind of specify how you want to do this. Also, you're going to need to adjust the sensitivity for those different options. Well, for your computer. As you guys start to perform these counts, you'll notice that adjusting the sensitivity can get you, one extra that it may have missed, or adjusting the sensitivity too high may not get you enough. So feel free to kind of tweak that sensitivity as you may need to and get it to where the results are kind of to your liking. Now, I will always recommend, I'm going to go ahead and hit search while I'm talking here, but I will always recommend going back and double checking after the count has done to make sure that it got all of the elements. Now, I'm also going to show you a trick if it didn't on how to merge those counts together so you don't have a couple different types of counts going on in your markups list. So you'll see with the count tool, with the search tool, it's down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and it really didn't give us any results until it got close to about 98 to 99%. So what I like doing is going through the results here. I'll go ahead and hit select all, and then I'm going to go ahead and peruse through what it found. And if I find any questionable, or I find any that maybe just don't work, like this one here, I'll uncheck it. Okay. From there, I will go ahead and I'll hit the check options and find the apply count measurement to checked, and we can go ahead and use any of our symbols, such as the sign R6-1, fire sprinklers, fixtures, doors, what have you, down to even counting the receptacles and things of that nature. So let's just use the fire sprinkler one I have here. Purple check marks, and there they are. Okay. So again, we can go ahead, go around and double check to make sure that it did get them all. Now, I think it did, but if it didn't, what we would do is we'd go ahead and click on that count and then right-click on it to resume the count. From there, we could go ahead and select any of the other items on that sheet that it may have missed. All right, so that's a nice kind of tip there for resuming those count tools. Now, I've been there where I've had multiple counts on the sheet, and what I mean by multiple counts is if you start the count tool over again, so if I hit here and I go to that fire, here we go. If I start it again, you'll notice that it actually starts a whole nother count tool here. What I like to do is if you have multiple count tools being counted like that, is you can select both of them and then right-click and you'll find merge counts. Well, there's resume count, but there's merge counts. And if you hit merge counts, it'll go ahead and merge all of those elements together. So instead of, separating them all together, it will bring them all under one. Now, at this point, of course, in the markups list is where we can go ahead and start breaking that information down if we did want to know what space these were in, if you're using any spaces, maybe, again, what layer you might have that on, or what else would we find here? Responsibility, but, I'm not seeing some of these. So I wanted to also get into what if you're not seeing some information that you'd really like to see in the columns here. So we have a nice setup of different columns that we can use in our markups list. But again, if we're trying to pull more information, or let's say push more information into these, we can go ahead and utilize the manage columns and then custom columns. Okay, so custom columns, we have, I believe it's 6 different types of columns that you can create. A check mark, choice, which will give you an actual drop down so you can create different elements to populate that drop down list. A date, formula, number, and text. So I really like the text tools, again, for many different purposes. This can go towards what level it is, what phase of the job this is going to be placed under, what identifying manufacturer or any other identifying features like that you may be able to push into these markups. The more information that you push into them, let's just say that this is going to be phase. I'll say okay. Okay. These will all be in phase 1. Okay. Notice if I add this to my tool chest under my tools, every time I place it, it's going to retain that phase 1 information. Now, again, I can quickly change that to become phase 2 if I need to. But this is also very helpful with maybe cost coding. So again, I can go to Manage Columns, Custom Columns. For a number column, we can, of course, place it number, currency, or percentage. We can use decimal places, include it in totals, everything like that, which I don't think I would include that in totals. Okay. Okay, so we can go ahead and adjust whatever, which, you know what, maybe the number code, the number one probably wasn't the best idea for that cost code, so I'd probably utilize the text for that one. Let's use cost code 2 there, and we'll get rid of cost code 1. All right, there we go. And now we can hit 2495. So again, whatever information that we have with these tools, the more information that we can push with them into things like the statuses, whether it's been takeoff has been completed on it or not, what phase it's going to be done in, the cost coding, any information that we could put into those tools and saved into the tool chest, they will retain that information. But if you don't even need them to, that's fine. We can keep these columns even just for reporting purposes. Now, again, with speaking about these custom columns, one important thing to think about is where are you saving them? Right now, they're in the document. If I want to save these custom columns to my profile, I'd hit Save to Profile, and then it's going to remember this for the current file and all new PDF documents under this profile. I say OK and OK, and again, it's going to remember that moving forward. Those custom columns are also shareable, so I can also export these and share them with anyone else to use. But that's a big portion as to kind of going to, excuse me, a big portion to push towards these summaries. So with our CSV summaries, we can go ahead and push this information out to Excel. We can push it into PDF, what have you, for whatever direction that we need to go take that information. All right, well, I know I've covered a lot about the count tool, so I want to move on to a couple of other tools before wrapping this up. A couple other tips and tricks that I have. With the new version, of course, the poly length measurement gives us the capability to create custom line styles. So if I go into the properties here, this custom line style is really just going to give me another kind of visual kind of cue that this line is what it is. The other thing I really wanted to talk about was the areas, the hatch patterns with areas or volume. Okay, with the hatch patterns that they have, let me get into the properties here. It is also possible to create hatch patterns, either draw them yourselves, or I'm going to call this tips. I'm going to say OK. So you can either draw it yourself, or you can actually import AutoCAD hatch patterns and bring them in and utilize those inside of Bluebeam Review. All right, well, that's about all that I have. Thank you again for joining us for another tips and tricks video. As a reminder, keep on the lookout for our next tips and tricks video. I'll be releasing a video on using Bluebeam profiles, so we'll give some tips and tricks on Bluebeam profiles. Again, thank you, and if you have any feedback for us, please feel free to email and let us know anything that you might want to see as a tip and tricks video in the future. Thank you again.